Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 96 of Sports Management Podcast, the third best sports business podcast in the world. Before we start, I just want to ask you all for a very small favor. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it on Spotify and Apple and give it a 5-star rating. It would help me very much in getting it visible to more people out there. Thank you. Moreover, this episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. The best way to elevate your sports career, except for listening to this podcast, is to take part in InSport Education's courses and programs. InSport Education is offering sports management podcast listeners 10% off all of their courses with the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and elevate your sports business career today. Now, today's guest is Petra Sörling, the first ever female president of ITTF, the International Table Tennis Federation. I had the pleasure of meeting Petra in person just outside of my hometown of Gothenburg, where she was attending a confederation meeting with the Swedish Table Tennis Federation. In addition to her role as ITTF president, she is also an executive board member at Swedish National Olympic Committee, the CEO of a real estate company in southern Sweden, a board member at International Masters Games Association, a member of IOC's Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Commission, a member of the WADA Foundation board, a World Veteran Table Tennis Championships gold medalist, and more. We spoke about being the first female ITTF president, her work for equality and sustainability, time management, that women need to say yes to business opportunities, working in a male-dominated field, and much more. Petra Sörling, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here and to meet you in person.
Yes.
And welcome to Gothenburg, my home city.
Thank you so much. Even if I learned yesterday that we are in Mölndal and not in Gothenburg. But I feel like I'm in Gothenburg and thank you for having me here. And it's really nice to have the chance to meet in person.
Indeed. For those who might not know who you are the president of ITTF, the International Table Tennis Federation, the first woman ever on this post. So can you talk a little bit about this role?
Yes, I was elected in the ITTF Executive Board already in 2009. And before my time as vice president, actually there were 2 more females, so I was not the first one in the board. But after 3 terms, 4 years each, I was elected president in 2021 in November as the first ever female president. And as I used to say, it was probably about time in 2021. But also, I'm happy now to say that since 2009, I was the only female in the executive board, but we took a decision to have our athletes commission represented with 2 chairs, like co-chairs. So it means that it's from different gender. And it means also that I now have a female colleague also within the executive board. And I hope that we can even make some changes so that we can increase the number of, let's say, to have a better diversity within the executive board. And not only to wait for the next election, but maybe in some way also have independent advisor or similar. So I'm really working hard on that.
Yes, I know that that's something that you prioritize. And as you said, it's 2 out of 12 executive members right now, right? So there is more work to do, but of course, a very good start.
Yes.
And we will talk more about the different CSR projects a little bit later. But if we talk about the Table Tennis Federation, it is 226 members. It's the largest sports federation in the world. And it also has the structure. You have World Table Tennis and ITTF Foundation. So can you talk a little bit about these different pillars?
Sure. We call it ITTF Group. It's not a legal entity, but an umbrella of these 3 bodies. Of course, the ITTF as the governing body of table tennis. And then we have our foundation, also non-for-profit, where we really work on how to use table tennis as a tool for development and a tool to change the society and even to change lives. And then the commercial arm, World Table Tennis, where we run all our events, and that is a for-profit company, and where we also take in now external shareholders. Still, ITTF will keep the majority. So this is a way for us also to, very many sports have external companies taking over the tour, etc. So this is the way how we really try to do the business side within the ITTF. And so far, it was a bumpy journey as we started in 2020. We were not forecasting the pandemic very well. But with that said, I think also that the pandemic made us slow down the speed a bit. And as every time when you do something new, when you have the chance to calibrate it, you get an even better version out there than if we would have run as fast as we did in 2019. I was part in the selection committee already as vice president finance at that time. So both the foundation that was decided and implemented 18-19 and then World Table Tennis 19-20. I feel very proud to have been there from the very beginning, from the very start. And it's something actually that makes the work as ITTF president a bit special, that we have these different legs within the ITTF group.
Is it more complex since it's a large federation? Maybe it's difficult to compare if you haven't worked in another one, but compared to a smaller one, the assumption would be that it's more work since it's a larger federation.
Yes, I would say that that is sometimes the challenging part is that, for example, some winter sports and some colleagues I have here in Sweden and also colleagues that I have in my NOC board, they are mainly in their sports working with the European countries. And of course, it's a difference if we have even 227 member associations now because we have one more since the last Congress. So, and of course, that comes with the different needs and these member associations, they are in different stages. So I would say that, yes, it's not the workload, but the diversity of the workload. But I also like to say that that is also what makes it so exciting to work, because no one day is the other one alike. But also coming back to what I said in regards to how to look at things from a cultural point of view, of course, with all these 227 members and different views, etc., things like gender equality, sustainability, safeguarding. In some countries, we are very far, and some other countries, we have to start to pronounce the word. And that is a challenge, but that is also something that makes the potential, just enormous.
Interesting.
Yes.
So which country is the 227th that I missed?
Actually, the last one was Falkland Islands.
Oh, okay.
And
my apologies to them for missing them.
No worries. I think we have covered. I got a question actually. For some reason this week I have had 3 sessions where I have been giving some kind of speeches or similar sessions, and I got the question if 227 countries, and no, it's not 227 countries, because we do have some where for different reasons there are more than one member association recognized. For example, England. So yeah.
Okay. I understand. You mentioned winter sport as a smaller federation, and Anders Larsson is a previous guest on this podcast. He's the president of the Swedish Ice Hockey Federation and also does some work with the Swedish Olympic Committee, where you also work. So have you spoken to him and exchanged ideas between the federation and the sports to take learnings from one another?
Yes, very much. And you see, I'm smiling now because Anders Larsson, first of all, he took on the very difficult task to be acting president in our NOC the last couple of months. But I quoted him just some hours ago because he have told me very many times as ice hockey president that he was jealous of table tennis, because we can bring a table tennis table everywhere. We used to say that every table is a table tennis table. You can play on the kitchen table, we can play here in front of us. But for ice hockey, it's a little bit more complicated. Of course, I like to say that I normally return that one, that I'm also kind of jealous for all the media exposure and sponsorship that they have in ice hockey. But seriously, we have a lot of exchange within the different sports here in Sweden. And Anders, for example, he is also now in the international board for ice hockey. So here we can also learn from each other on the international level. And he introduced to me during a session some months ago, also the president from International Ice Hockey. So I would say that we are good in Sweden in sharing ideas and so on, but also to listen to each other when we have difficulties and challenges. So not only because we are now sitting in the same board in our NOC, but also before that. So that I must say it's a very positive thing. So even if ice hockey as a winter sport and table tennis as a summer sport and quite different, but there are also similarities. We discussed, for example, education and digitalization last time we spoke.
Of course, a lot to learn. And as you mentioned with ice hockey, which I also work in, the lack of space is a big one.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the media coverage on the table tennis side. So I believe that all sports, I mean, we can help each other out. And
yes.
That's a great way to do it, I think.
Yes. And actually, sport as a movement, we cannot afford not to help each other because there are so much things out there like TikTok, Netflix, etc. that takes the space. And also, if we want to attract and recruit also the next generation, we have to stay valid. And for that, of course, I believe that we have to work together and to make sport valid and a place where people like to be. And I don't know, but I also, when reflecting how sport will look like in the future, I believe that it will be much more on demand and that we cannot attract people to practice Tuesday 7 to 9 o'clock. They want to practice when they feel like, and that's a must then when it comes to venues, etc. Because here in Sweden we see that the venues are, sometimes you share the venue among sports and then you are dedicated to this 7 to 9 o'clock in Tuesday evening. But if we see here table tennis, for example, when paddle during the pandemic, when the venues were open because they were privately run, I mean, then people could play when they were free and they had time. And I think that we in all sport have to see how we can make our sport more accessible, more available. And that's a challenge that we have for all sports together, and also something to really think on how we can stay valid, because table tennis is one sport, but all sports are very, very good for health. And I believe also that we can cut costs within the society if we keep our community active.
Me too. And I read recently that racket sports are one of the best ones for health because it mixes physical training with the cognitive training, and that especially table tennis that is very fast, that you need all the time to work. Your brain is working to see the next move, but also you're physically moving.
Yes.
So that's something, as you mentioned, for the general health of the population and cutting costs from the healthcare system and so on.
Yes, and I think that more and more starting to see this. And I discussed when I was in Singapore just some weeks ago with the table tennis president of Singapore. And she said when we had this discussion after a while, I should next time also speak with the health department within my country, not only with the sports department when it comes to ask for more support and more money, etc. So even sport here, I think we have to start to think in another direction, and also to educate the politicians or those that allocate the resources, that sport is actually a tool also for health. And in table tennis, we start from this year on a world championships in not only Parkinson, which we have had for some years, but also for MS and Alzheimer. So under the umbrella of Health Week. So this Health Week festival we will have in October in Greece, in Crete. And the year after, 24, we will have it. It's already allocated to France. But I hope, of course, that we will have in the future the opportunity to come back to Sweden and have this kind of health festival, because it's an excellent tool. And I believe that table tennis is one of those sports that really can help, as we have seen for Parkinson, for example. No, you cannot get rid of this terrible disease, but you can have a more quality within your life by playing table tennis and to be part of a community. So we really like to see also how we can cooperate here with other sports as well.
Really interesting and very important, of course. You said sports is a movement.
Mm.
Is that how you see sports?
Yes.
Is it a health movement, a political movement, or what type of movement would you say that?
I would say that sport is very good for health, but I also believe in ping pong diplomacy and maybe more than others because we have the tradition in our sport. Last year we had the anniversary of ping pong diplomacy, 50 years, and I had the pleasure to meet in the USA 2 of the players that was part of the USA team that came to China, opened the door for discussions in between those 2 big countries. And I believe that we as a sport can play a role here, but I also see it the other way around, that we should also keep ourselves focusing on the sport because that is what we are here for.
You mentioned China, and the Chinese players are very strong in the sport. I checked the world rankings. I think 3 out of 5 on the men's side, and almost most of the players from top 10 on the women's side. But also from a Swedish perspective, we have 4 players, I think, in top 30.
Yes.
So every sport wants to have, it's not so interesting if it's only one country, for example, but you start to see more on the men's side, but more diversity in terms of representation in the top rankings. Do you believe that that is important?
It is very important, and your analysis is all correct because there is a big difference in between men's and women's table tennis in terms of diversity. For example, in the Olympic Games in Tokyo, we had 4 continents represented in the quarterfinals of the men's singles. In the females, it's not like that. And we do not have yet the answer how we can push and help for more diversity also on female table tennis, because it's important. And we are very proud, extremely proud, that table tennis still is a national sport in China. We know that with time and changes, of course, it's tough to stay valid as the number 1 sport. And also when I was in Beijing for the Winter Olympic Games, talking with the volunteers, with the kids, and asking them about, because winter sport in many ways were new to them, and they really would love to try winter sports. So of course I was a little bit worried, asking also my table tennis friends, my deputy president, Li Guoliang, how is now, after 1 year, the Winter Olympic Games, is there more, let's say, challenges or competition within table tennis as a national sport and the winter sports? And no, I mean, China is a big country. There is space for all of us. And still, table tennis is the number 1 sport. So we like, of course, to keep that position. It's good for our sport. But we also like to have diversity in competition. And the same, of course, for the players from China. They want to compete also versus others. They are very keen to tell me about those days when there was these hard matches, Sweden, China. And actually, as we were the last one that won against them, even if other countries have been better than Sweden from a team perspective and results the last years, still Sweden is the country that they have kept having the respect for because we won. And it was to see also in Houston when Sweden did so good, winning both the men's double and silver in the men's singles. And immediately the Chinese coaches were there and wanted to listen and to learn also from the new racket that Truls was playing with, and welcomed him to practice in China and so on and so on. So in one way there is competition, but there is also, of course, there is a friendship in between the different players and coaches, and we are really working hard on not only being diverse in terms of many members, but also on all levels that there is a diversity. And on the top elite level, we have more work to do. At the same time, as I said in the start of this question, I mean, we also have to keep in mind that to keep the momentum that we have as being the national sport in China is also work. So we have to stay valid also and develop our sport.
Is it a result that China is prioritizing table tennis and that's why they're doing so well? If you have more support from the government in a sport?
I don't think so. Having seen from inside how hard you practice in China from very early ages, I think it's their professionalism that is the number one thing. Yes, resources is important. Yes, to have, for example, now China lost the first event that we had, the mixed event that we had in Tokyo Olympic Games, Japan won. And now there is one dedicated coach, high level, just focusing on the mix event. And I know that there is probably nowhere else already now. It's 23, it's 1 year before. And now they are trying the different compositions to find the best way to win it back in 24 Olympic Games, of course. So yes, that is resources, but mainly I think it's hard practice and a good system and a good structure. And we see even here in Sweden that those players coming here that comes from China, they are very well educated. So, for example, when Li Fen came to play here and she won, 120 matches in a row, I myself heard very many commenting on, wow, we have to keep her in Swedish table tennis because she has such a table tennis education. So how they do it, I think we can also learn a lot from. But I think that's the recipe. They take it very serious. They are very, very precise. And now they are already working super hard to bring back this title that they lost in Tokyo Olympic Games. And I think that is more, and through the result, because of this professional way of working, they get more resources.
Very interesting. If we talk about CSR, corporate social responsibility, that's something that's very important to you and that you prioritize. We spoke about it a little bit before about gender equality in the executive board.
Yeah.
But you have many other things that you work with regarding CSR. Do you want to speak to some of those?
Yes, it's close to my heart because I believe that those areas is areas where you cannot choose. You actually have to. And those that don't realize that we have to work in these areas, then we have to educate them. So here I have no other answer than we have to bring everybody on that train. When it comes to sustainability, the people, the planet, and to make this prosperity, I believe that ITTF, through ITTF Foundation, have very well the answer on the social part. And we did already before 2018, we were very early adopter in taking big social responsibility through our programs. Already in 2009, we got Peace and Sport Award. It's only through the foundation it's more easy to measure, and also it's much more better as we now can also work with different organizations and not so much connected only to an IF. So that's the social part. And I must say that coming home recently from India and one of these dream building projects that we are running in the foundation, at this period of time we're running 19 around the world and different ones, and how to see in a poor area in India how table tennis as a tool could change for the kids in the school their perception of boys and girls working together, talk together, was amazing. And I was emotional coming home to these kids and their parents. And the parents are saying that my daughter, she was not talking very much before. And her brother is confirming that, yeah, now she talks too much. But she takes the space because she's more confident now when she play with the boys in school. And then they start to talk and cooperate. It's respect. It's gender equality in a very, let's say, natural way. But it starts with the kids. And if they can start the journey, I'm sure that they can also impact in other areas and also make changes. So that's from that project. And even when they were playing table tennis, they also did different exercises where they were discussing sustainability, safeguarding. So even if it was like, okay, they play table tennis, but it came with a lot of other important discussions, and mainly that they did these exercises together. The younger kids, the older kids, the boys, the girls, in a way that in these schools never happened before. It was around 350 to 400 kids. And even the parents said to some extent that the boy or girl, they were more keen to study and to do their homework, more focused. So many results that for me it was a wow moment that table tennis, it could have been another sport as well, but I'm just saying that sport as a tool for development. And one of the colleagues from the foundation, she was traveling from India to Nepal and to another dream building project where they were using table tennis as a rehab tool for those having drug problems. So this is to see that these 19 dream building projects is all different, but example of how to use sport, and in this case table tennis, for development. And this, I can really feel that this is the best example of the social part of sustainability. When we are coming over to the more green and what people may normally think when they are talking sustainability is mainly on the planet side. But here I believe we can do much more. And we have also now a staff working dedicated within this area in the ITTF. We recruited internally from our foundation, because then we kept what we have and then we add on. So we have also signed some agreements with different stakeholders and organizations to learn from, of course, and to be one of the few summer federations also that is not really... we can see here, for example, sailing and canoeing and those using the water, they are in forefront. But also as an indoor sport, we can do much more. And we haven't done very much when it comes to recycling our equipment. And myself as president, traveling a lot. And how can you then be an advocate for sustainability by traveling a lot? It's not easy. And that is one thing that makes me sometimes a little bit worried that how can we do this in a better way? Yes, we can have some meetings we can have online, but very many occasions, like today, for example, we have here today a Congress, Swedish table tennis, and at the same time we managed to have this meeting. And this is exactly what I tried to do. On my way back from Singapore, I stopped, had transit in Turkey, and there we had an event for the kids affected by the earthquake, and instead of doing 2 trips. So there are different ways of traveling, maybe the same trips, but to try to get so much content as possible within the same. So we can do more in that area as well. But mainly I think that when it comes to CSR and sustainability, it's about awareness first. And then, of course, the next phase is to change. And here I think that when we are talking again on the social part, I think we are in the box of change. But when it comes to the green part, we are still on the box of awareness. Within this area, we have also, since I was elected president, worked harder on the gender equality, diversity and inclusion. I am a member of the IOC Commission for this area, but I have also my coordinator working together with me, focusing on this area, moving forward, and the executive board, I'm very proud that they took now the decision to approve the plan for how we can work more in this area. So now it's also more action and less talk.
I like that. That's good. And on that role, the commissioner was called Gender Equality Commissioner, and you changed that to Gender and Diversity Commissioner.
Yes.
Was it only a name change, or is it also a focus change?
It's much more of a focus change, and that is very much connected to this work, as I said, also that we have now done plan. And we are also here following IOC very much. And to be fair, it was not only us changing. They had before, my commission name was, I think, Women in Sport Commission or something. Now it's Gender Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. So I believe that, through diversity comes creativity, and through creativity comes result. So in the end of the day, it's not only about gender. So I like very much more now when we have widened or broadened the scope, because I think we can do much more if we are not thinking too small in this area. And also, my experience so far is when talking more about diversity and inclusion, being a big IF with 227 different member associations, I believe that everyone is buying in more easily to this topic if we are not pointing on the gender as the only one thing, because then it becomes like a competition. And it's not a competition in between the two of us because we are different gender. It's something that we are in together. And by working together to improve and make a change, I really feel that gender equality, diversity, inclusion is much better because it's positive and it shows that we are in it together. So it's not a group of females, it's a group of people working in this area and working for diversity in the best way. And as I said, as one of these mottos that it's really needed if we want to have result in all areas, we have to also think outside the box, and that's the creative part, and we do that much better if we are not all the same.
Yeah. On that point, we said before, you are the first female on your current position.
Yes.
There are 2 women only out of 12 in the executive board. In all of the world's sports federation, only 2 presidents are women. You are one of them. It's a lot of men out there in the sports industry. It's a male-dominated field.
Yes.
How is it to work in such a male-dominated field for you?
I think that whatever position you have, when you're inside in an organization, for example, when you have been there for a while, you get blind. And I always said in my business life that when you have a new employee, make sure to really listen to that one during the first weeks, because after some few weeks, he or she is like all the others, because you become one of the group. So I'm probably the worst one to ask, as I have been in this environment for so long. But on the other hand, I also see how we can be better in promoting each other as females. And one recommendation or advice I always give when I get very often the question if I have any advice or recommendation or so, and I always say yes, because the difference I see in between men and women is that we, and now of course it's not all, but very often I see that as a female you say, oh, you get a question to take on a position in a committee, in a board or whatever, and you say, well, I have to look at the job description, or can I do all these? And maybe I haven't done ABC, but I have done D, and so on. And that is when I'm saying yes. Say yes. Because very many men have not done everything on that list neither, but they will say yes. And they will not think about it. They will say yes, they will take the position, and it will work. At the same, as a female, if you get a question, someone else have gone through and find your name, and that means that you are qualified. You will learn what you have to learn. And that is what I used to say. And very many actually confirm it by saying that, yeah, I was thinking that I have to first learn ABC before I take on this. So that is one thing. Another thing is to find yourself sponsors. And I'm not now talking about Coca-Cola or so. I'm talking about those people that speak positively about you when you're not present. They are very important. And I think that men are historically better to have those. They are in the sauna, they are in the whiskey club or wherever. It still exists very much in sport, these small groups where it's difficult if you're not present. I learned 2005 to drink whiskey. That was a very good investment. I didn't know then that was a good thing to do. But it is, because you have to be present, because very many decisions is not taken in the room where the decisions is on the agenda. They are taken before. And then you have to be present there. So to say yes, be present, and among yourself you have to have sponsors around you.
I like that. So that was I would not have guessed that would that whiskey drinking would help you in your career. That's great. Now we have talked about what you're doing now, but if we start about you, how you got into sport from the beginning and into table tennis and your career up until where we are now, how did it start?
Well, it started by growing up in a family where my father and my sister played table tennis. And as I was then at home with my mother, I also wanted to go with them when they went on table tennis. I didn't want to stay home. So when I was like 6 years, I managed to go with for the first time, and I couldn't really play. I couldn't even play versus the wall because motorically I was not, let's say, big enough. But this I didn't understand. And what was worse, my father didn't understand it neither. So when we came home, he said he was deeply worried, deeply concerned. My father was a sportsman, so he said during the dinner in the evening that it will be very difficult for Petra in school because she cannot really touch a ball. I mean, it's very complicated for her. So some years later, when I was 8, almost 9, I got a chance to follow my sister to her practice. And then it was totally different. I mean, because of course I was some years older and motorically better in shape to play table tennis or sport in general. So that's how I started, because from that time on, I played in a small club, and I played until I was 27, 28. I was the youngest one at that time playing in the highest league in Sweden. I was 13 when I started to play in the team. And that was also a funny story, because we played in the highest league for women's table tennis, Elitserien. And there was a new player coming, contracted from another club, but there was a mistake in how they made the paperwork. This can, of course, happen. So she couldn't play until the second or the third match, the one that they were contracting. So the coach, he came to the practice and he said, we have to have one of the young players coming up. She will lose all the matches, so we have to take someone that... So the task was more or less, who will not, stop playing table tennis by losing 3 matches and still survive that and contribute to be the name on the team. And the coach said, take Petra. So that's how I was selected, not because I was the best one, but I was the best to survive, to lose all the matches in that age. So I was 13, but I won 2 matches. So no, it was 3 team matches. I won 2 single matches within these 3. But that was a big surprise. So actually, I was then asked to stay in the team. So that's how I did my journey, actually. And it's a funny coincidence, but that was the story. And I was also number 3 as a junior in the Swedish championships. But around 15, 16 years old. At that time, it was when you more or less had to stop school if you wanted to continue as a table tennis professional. It was different than now. I mean, today you can combine in many other ways. And I still had my mother, who was not a table tennis nerd as the other 3 of us. So she was pushing me for my school, etc. So I did continue with school, and I started also to become a coach. And I was also elected in the district board. And yeah, I had some coaching tasks. I mean, I had a club where I had the men's team in Division 4. I was their coach. And I was also having the boys in Sweden, the best 11-year-old boys. So for some reason, actually, I was coaching boys and men. And it was just by coincidence. It was nothing I chose. It was those calling me, asking for my services. But now I find it a bit funny when I go back and see how I think you learn from everything you do. And I think I learned a lot from that journey. I also had training camps, etc. For Swedish table tennis. And that was my journey. And then the best I did with my team, at that time Malmö FF table tennis, was we took silver in the Swedish league, and we didn't get any recognition, no dinner, no nothing from the club. And the men's team, they got flowers, they got to a restaurant, etc. And that was when actually I started to feel that this is not okay, I have to do something. So actually I'm quite happy today that we were treated in that way, because it woke up something for me. Because my journey before that, the club I was in was a club with more or less all the top players on the female side and not so many men. But when I came to Malmö FF table tennis, it was the other way around. And that was a learning lesson for myself. Coming to the venue and being the first one in the venue, taking a table for practice. And then some other top male players came later, and then we have to move because that was their table. So those occasions that came to me for the first time when I was 19, 20. And of course, not being used to that, it made me reacting. And that's how it started. And then I took on some education and youth committee in Swedish table tennis. And then I became a board member, and that was a journey.
Wow. And you still play table tennis a bit, I read.
Well,
you won veterans competition here a few years ago, right?
Yeah, I took a break actually for 18 years. But then I came back and I played in the Danish league, and we won actually the Danish league, not veterans, the real one. And that was really, really, really fun that you can still perform on that level. And I still enjoy very much the community and to be part as a player, because in a way it helps my task as ITTF president that I'm still playing, I'm still on the floor, because that is what it's all about. And sometimes you can get lost when you're having long meetings and it's all about politics or administration or so, and then you go back. And so I see actually table tennis as a very good way to relax from a lot of other tasks. But yes, I do still play. We won the World Veterans in double. We won 2018 in Las Vegas. And now when it was time, because of the cancelled events during the pandemic, we kept our title a bit longer than normal. So it was time again now in January. And this time we took silver. But I would say that I'm almost as proud of my silver as of my gold, because it shows that we can do it again. And that's how to say what is the driving force when you're practicing, that you can still always learn and improve.
Yeah, and you have said in this interview now that you can always learn, and you have said before so that you can always learn from people you meet, and that we have also talked about exchanging ideas from other federations. You seem very open to learn. Is that something that has always been, or you are curious, you want to learn, or is it something that you have developed during your career?
I think I'm very curious as a person, and I think I always was like that. And I haven't thought about it in that way, but when I was hearing it from you now, and I like to reflect, even if sometimes you need more time to reflect, but there was a say in my family that because my mother and my father and my sister were working in the same working place, let's say where they started, and they worked there forever, they live in the same house, etc. But I was the one always 4 or 5 years, then I like to, not that I have to change job or so, I've been in table tennis forever, but I like to challenge myself. And my mother always said that there is something kind of wrong, because when you are comfortable and everything is good, then you jump on the other side. But that is, when I'm thinking of it in the way you put the question, because I'm curious. It's not that I have to have, adrenaline. It's not about that. It's more like, okay, now I know how this works. What about if we go right? What's over there? And so I think it's mainly I'm curious. And I'm also, sometimes when I have my calendar and I have some meetings and you go back and you wonder, is this meeting really needed just now when the calendar is so full? And that is normally the meeting when I'm coming back and I say to my colleague or to myself, wow, now I really learned something new, because I didn't expect that meeting to take such a direction. And that is where I said before that say yes, but also take those meetings sometimes that you don't really know what it's all about. Of course, you have to be cautious on time, but be curious also when there is something that you don't really know why they are inviting you for the meeting. That might be the meeting that you learn from that week, because it's something that is outside the traditional box.
Let's talk about time management.
Yes.
You work with ITTF, you work with the Swedish Olympic Committee. I learned today that you work with WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. You're also the CEO of Rosengård Fastighets AB, real estate.
Yes.
You have a couple of companies yourself in the real estate industry. Mm. How do you make time for everything?
I always believe that if you find something important and also you enjoy it, you find time. At the same time, when I bring something new in, I always try to take something else out. I try to look at it as a backpack, because the backpack is full. And when you take something new in, for example, now I have some new, WADA is new from this year. I'm also a board member in IMGA, International Master Games Associations, led by Sergei Bubka, where I meet a lot of people from other sports as well. Also working masters is about veterans, is about health. But at the same time now, I'm also stepping down into other associations where I have been. In one, I have been actually the chair, and in one other, I have been a member of the board. So when I take something new in, I also look at it like in a wardrobe. Okay, now I bought something new, then I have to take something old out. So it's all about balance. And of course, sometimes it's a lot, but it's also sometimes some tasks comes with, okay, when there is the meetings, to be present, to be prepared. But there is not so much in between. Then there are other tasks where the work is in between the meetings, and then in the meeting you deliver the result. So for me, it's also very important when I take on something to really make sure that I have understood what is the task. And of course, I also have done mistakes in these areas where something have taken much more time than I expected. And then you have to calibrate and to see either you make sure you have more time, or this is not a place where I can contribute. Because if I don't see that I contribute, I'm not the one to continue, because I do not enjoy if I'm not part. And that comes with my personality, I think. I mean, in the way, because in the end of the day, we haven't solved more than 52 weeks per year. So as long as we have these 52 weeks, we have to balance what we do. For example, in my company, I only work 50%, and I also have a very good team around me. And that's the trick also, that you're never alone. And don't try to do everything by yourself, because it will not work. I'm a team player by nature, and I believe that is also why I can have all these tasks that I have. And then I have one other, it's not a rule, it's more mainly my way to navigate. I switched on and off. So I don't bear with me everything all the time. And that, of course, helps me not to be too stressed sometimes.
That leads me into the next part of this, like work-life balance, because most of these are work-related tasks. You have your private life, you have your alone time, your mental, physical health. How do you allocate these different buckets?
I think that is, we learned that, if not before, we learned that very much during the pandemic. I mean, the importance of taking care of yourself and your health. For me, playing table tennis is how I relax the most, because it's a little bit like nobody can reach me when I play table tennis. And it was also what I did the last weekend before I went to Houston and the election, which of course was a time full of a lot of stress. And people were asking, why do you go to Helsingborg and play a table tennis event? Also a male competition, and really no chance to win anything there more than my own time. So table tennis is one thing I do when I want to be in my bubble. But I also have, before I had 3 dogs, actually now 2 of them passed away recently, but they became 16 years. So I have had them for 16 years. Now I only have the young one, but he's very active. So he takes me on long walks. I love to do mountain hiking when I have the time. Otherwise, just walk the dogs. But also family is important. My son is 16 and he plays a lot of football and windsurfing. So on our way here to Gothenburg, we stopped in Landskrona to watch him playing football. So this is also one way. It's not always possible, but if possible, I like to combine things, and I also like to bring him with. And I would say that he learned a lot also from being part of this way of living my life. And then I also have, as I said before, about support and having good people around. It's not only in the company, it's also at home, of course. I would be very stressed, I think, if I came home after a long table tennis trip and if the house was upside down. So we help each other, and that comes without saying, because otherwise I think it would not work. And also that you also have the respect for all the people around you, and not coming home tired after a long trip. It does not work. I mean, when you come home, you have to also be energetic and alert for them, because they cannot help that. It was a delayed flight from Brussels the other day. It's just when you get the call that, Mom, I like to have a McDonald's on the way. It's just to stop on the McDonald's on the way home, even if it's 11:30 and you just want to sleep. Because if being at home, that would have been the case, that it is easy to drop by. But having table tennis 24/7, because with the 227 members comes, of course, that there is always one member awake. So you can easily work around the clock and every day a week. And that is where you have to push yourself and create a good balance in the schedule. And for that, not to forget, for me, my friends are also very important. And I have kept them during the years. And they are there. Whatever you do and whatever task you take on, they are not very impressed. And I love that way of being and doing and to be part of that group, and just to be one in the group and not to have any responsibility at all.
Yeah, of course. The friends are important, and the teamwork.
Yes.
Reflecting on your career, has there been any bumps on the road? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I believe that all of us have had bumpy roads if we look back, but I also have the philosophy that is from where you learn a lot. I mean, my international journey in table tennis started when I was quite new in the board in Swedish table tennis, and I felt that I was not treated in an equal way when we were going to bid for the World Championships, and we were only 2 females in the board, and one of us was supposed to be the representative. And then I was the young one, and I said, of course, it should be the senior one if it is one of us. But I didn't really understand why it would be one of us when it was not asked among the others. So that led me to later on take on the international business within the board, or to be given the task, first of all. And as I said before, when I came to the club in Malmö, when we were treated differently, I mean, that also gave me some motivation. So I think those bumps on the road actually are those that make you take, let's say, the fast track to really work yourself and to contribute and make a difference.
That was looking back. Looking forward, I know that in 2026, 3 years from now, you have a 100-year anniversary with ITTF. But just looking forward, what can we look forward to in regards to table tennis or ITTF, or what you are working with?
It's 100 years anniversary both in the ITTF and in Swedish table tennis in 2026. And 100 years is respect. And of course you wonder, where are we in 100 years? But I believe that sport as a tool for change is only getting more and more important in life. And I like to see table tennis as one of the 5 sports to be mentioned all around within the Olympic movement, but also outside. And I see now that we have a boost. We have outdoor table tennis tables around Sweden, around the world. We have e-sport, where table tennis now is taking a position for the first time. And we have also more and more integration with para-table tennis, not only in the ITTF, but also on the national level. And I believe that we can see table tennis in areas where we haven't seen it before. We spoke about health before and the health festival. But I like to say, as we say in ITTF, table tennis for all for life, and how we really live and breathe that. And I'm super exciting and hope to be part of this journey as long as possible. But for the next 100 years, I think we have to go to the next generation and educate them so they bring this important work further. But I do see table tennis as the best sport. And of course, I say that with a lot of love. And I hope that we can also make a big celebration in 2026, not only in Sweden, but all around the world.
Yeah. None of us will be here in 100 years, but I hope that, as you say, it will continue to improve. I believe personally that you have done great work so far and will continue to do so. But before I let you go, the last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
Yes, a very good question. And as we were touching a little bit on table tennis and China, I would say that to stay in Sweden and to stay in the table tennis family, but to learn a bit more in regards to China and the national sport. So I would say Li Fen, who is living in Malmö and who have the best result ever in the Swedish league, and who was also a coach for some years in the Swedish national team for the youngsters, and who got her education in China in terms of table tennis. So I would be curious to listen to her way of seeing table tennis here in Sweden compared to in China, but also as a mother and as living here in Sweden for a long time, the whole sports structure. And yeah, it would be interesting.
Yes, that would be very interesting. Petra Sörling, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @SportsMPodcast.